We recorded a customer virtual publisher webinar today and thought it would be helpful if we share the recording for anyone who's interested in looking at the features of Virtual Publisher. So let's get started. Have here and talk a little bit about Virtual Publisher and how it's actually broken up. Virtual Publisher is really created for the planning and production of your titles, your issues. So we've broken it up really into two different modules. The first module is actually a planning module, and the second would be a production module. The main difference between those two modules is that if you're working in a planning mode, obviously it does all the planning features that are listed here, and it works in really kind of a low-res environment. Now the difference is if you actually upgrade or add the additional module of production, then you actually are into a high-res environment where you're doing your full, whether it's a PDF X1A or PDF X4 or whatever that final format you wish to deliver directly to your printer or directly to you, or to both, because we can set up multiple delivery destinations. Those files are delivered directly out of the back end of the system once everything is approved. So what I'm going to kind of cover today really are those two modules in planning and production, and I'm going to try to make sure that I kind of draw that line and distinguish between the two modules, so when I switch over to production you understand where the feature sets begin and end. Okay, so I'm going to start like this. This is going to be a little bit different than the normal demo that I do, but since you guys are a SemiAd customer, I want to kind of make the connection between SemiAd and Virtual Publisher and how I guess the combination of the two products together are very powerful. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually earlier before we started this demo, I actually submitted an ad in through my little advertiser account that I have set up in my demo environment. And I have it set up to where when an ad comes into my Virtual Publisher publication, it actually sends me an email notification that an advertiser sent in an ad. So in this case, the advertiser I set up, it's called AdWorks. And you could see 1 hour ago at 11:36, I submitted in this full page ad running in the KZ demo publication that I have set up. And of course, it gives me a little representation of the ad itself. So if you can imagine, you can set up this this material request that goes out to your advertiser, or this advertising starts to roll into this particular publication, this issue, and you start getting notifications of those ads coming in. All you need to do essentially is just click on the link. It will actually bring you directly into the ad itself from the link in the email. And I have this system set up to actually go through a single approval cycle. So the advertiser submits the ad in. I receive the email as the ad layout person. I get this link, and the first thing I'll do is I'll take a look at the ad, make sure that I didn't have any pre-flight issues with it, all the same stuff that you guys are familiar with already in SemiAd. The only option that I have here is I can do an approve or reject based upon what I see. I'm going to go ahead and approve this ad. And once I approve the ad, you'll see that it finalizes it exactly as it does for you in your current SemiAd system. It creates that digital receipt. It creates the final PDF X1A. It's really what it's doing is it's basically finalizing the file, and then gives you the ability, as you do through SemiAd, again, to do pickups and other things with the file later. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually click on the Virtual Publisher environment. And I'm going to log in as a KZ admin. This is the Keith admin is actually my administrative account into the publisher account. So once I sign in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that publication that I just had the advertiser submit that ad into. And if you'll notice, the ad automatically pops up over here into the left spot, which we call our clipboard. And I have the ability to actually take that ad, drag it in, drop it into any position I want. So I can put it into position 6 and put it there. And you can even say, oh no, I didn't want it in position 6, but I want it to run in folio 12. I can grab it and move it back down to folio 12. Or I can move it back to the clipboard or really do anything with it as far as dragging and dropping it back and forth within the interface. Now, I really kind of wanted to start with that little portion of the demo to kind of give you an idea of the integration between SemiAd and Virtual Publisher. But what I'm going to do is I kind of pulled the cake out of the oven as it was baked. I'm going to go back and actually show you how we made the cake. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and set up a new issue to kind of start from scratch and show you how easy it is. Now, the system is a single system, so literally with your current semi-ad account that you have right now, literally all I would need to do is go into your account and click on the ability to use Virtual Publisher Planning or Virtual Publisher Production, and you're up and running. There's nothing else that you need to do with your account other than set up a pre-flight workflow for your pages because you have a separate pre-flight workflow for your ads. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and set up a new issue. Clicking on Add Issue. I will choose my publication. We'll call this the May issue. And one good thing about Virtual Publisher is that you have the ability to actually choose templates. And I'm going to circle back to that once I get it set up and show you what I actually had in that template. So I'm going to choose the Master VP template and say Add Issue. Now the system tracks milestones, so it tracks everything that really happens within the system and makes sure that these material deadlines are being met, and if they're not, you can actually set the system up where it actually sends out notifications to you based upon those milestones being met. You'll notice on the left side this May issue that I just set up, it's red because it's actually not ready to receive material or start planning. There's a couple of things that I need to do. So the first thing I need to do is go in and actually set up an issue ship date. We'll also track an on sale date. And then we have some ad deadlines. So we have a materials due date we need to set for the ad material, and then the run date, which is the hard stop for the ad material coming in. Now once those things are set, your issue is pretty much up and ready to start. You'll notice that now it's not red anymore, and it's set up and ready to start the planning process. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the book plan. And instead of looking at this KZ demo, we'll go to the May plan that I just set up. And you'll notice that here's the publication that I just created. Now, the good thing about when I created this May issue and I chose that VP master template is that I can configure the system and start the process of creating an issue and then save it back out as a template for things that are going to be repetitive every month. So in this case, in my demo account, that I say that we're going to have versioning every month. So my cover, I'm going to have a newsstand as well as a default. And if I click on that, you see we have actually two files which are going to be associated with that folio position in the book. So we do handle versioning on pages, ads, inserts. You'll notice at the top here that in my template I also had a blow-in that I'm going to have every month that runs right in the inside, right with CV2 in between CV2 and page 3. Now, all of the things that you're seeing in the template that I created are customizable once we bring them in. So you can modify this template any way you want because now it's brought in and you're ready to start the process. So we know that things change from time to time. For instance, let's say that you sold a full page ad that's going to run on 6 and you've got the editor's letter that's currently on 6. You could simply just take the editor's letter, move it over to folio position 7, and then I'll show you how easy it is to go in and actually create an ad reservation. So if I say on the left side, hopefully everybody can see this left side panel here, which is our clipboard. We have the ability to create reserve ads and create editorials. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and reserve an ad. And if you're familiar at all with the ad reservation system through SemiAd, it's the exact same system. So advertiser, we'll just call this my ad. We can put any headline information in for the ad. We can make a product or branding metadata associated with the ad. If you have an external booking number associated with the ad, you can actually put that information in. Most important thing, obviously, you choose the ad size. Now, a couple of additional features that you have is that we can choose that you have a category associated with this ad. And I'm going to show you some of the rules that we have when you're actually dragging and dropping and creating your book, that we can manage the process of making sure that you're not violating ad rules that you've agreed with your advertisers. So I'm just going to put this in, say, a flooring category. You can choose that it's going to go into a certain section, and this stuff is optional. If I choose no section whatsoever, it won't force me to put that ad into that section. But let's say that I do say I want this to go into the future design section of my book. Now, one of the cool things about the integration between Virtual Publisher and SemiAd is that I also have the ability to choose who the advertiser is. And this is my advertisers database. So let's say that I want to go to the AdWorks advertiser. I can choose a user within the company and choose that I'm going to actually send this email out to the advertiser to say, hey, you agreed to run a full-page ad in the May issue. I can put in a note. And as soon as I say reserve ad space, what happens is an email notification goes out to that advertiser and says, hey, you agreed to run this ad. And as you saw in the beginning of my demo, it's just an email with a little link, which allows them to go in and actually just submit their PDF into the issue. Now, one of the good things about it, and the reason that I created this ad and put it into the future design section, I'm going to show you some of the rules that once you set it up that way, make sure that while you're planning, you won't violate it. So I know this is going to go into the future design section, but I'm going to try to drag and drop it into the bath design section. When I'll do that, you see it pops up and it gives me a warning. It says, hey, no, that was actually not created to run in that section. It was created to run in another section. You have the ability to take that and you can drag it and say, you remember we wanted to put this into folio position 6. And when I do that, it actually pops the ad into that folio position. Now, the editorials pretty much work the same way as far as creating editorials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on editorial, and I'm going to show you how to reserve an editorial. So when I reserve this editorial, again, call it my story, because I have no imagination. You can put slug information in for the editorial. I can even assign it to an author. And if I assign it to an author, I can actually assign it to one of my internal production people or editors or writers or whoever it is, or a group. And when I do that, I'm admin. When I do that, it will actually create an email notification out to me to say, hey, you've been issued this editorial to be created, and it's running in whatever section it is you choose. In this case, we'll choose it's going to run in the future design section, and it's going to be a 2-page editorial. And then you can put any special instructions in you'd like for the reserving of the editorial. So once I say add editorial, just as with ads, that editorial shows up on the right side, then you have the ability to actually drag that editorial into a folio position. Now, everything I showed you just now is kind of a manual way of actually creating ads, creating editorials, and then placing those ads and editorials into the folio slots. We do have, our system does integrate with external systems. We have a standard API that we have. We've integrated with external ad booking systems like MSG and some other things. We could actually integrate with other systems for the same importation of your editorial metadata. Showing all the manual stuff that we do, I did want to show you how we could actually import the information in. So let's say that, number one, I want to go ahead and start with, say, importing plan data. So I'll just from an external spreadsheet, which is simply just a comma-separated file, I'm going to choose add data. And again, this could be an external ad booking system that you have that we integrate with, but in this case, maybe you have an output from that ad booking system and then you just import the data. Where you saw me set up all of those ad reservations, I'm going to actually import the information in. And you'll see that it actually imports all of that information over in the clipboard. The other thing I want to show is it works the same for editorial, and maybe this is more appropriate for the audience. But if I go in and I choose the exact same feature where I say import plan data, I can say, well, no, this is editorial data that I do want to import in. And if I say browse for file and I choose the editorial data, it will actually import all of the metadata for the editorial based upon that external spreadsheet, as well as the page count, author, and actually start page. So when I say process this file, rather than put this information into the clipboard, since I've actually assigned folio positions, you'll see that it actually brings in all of the information. So what it did basically is just created my entire book based upon that external spreadsheet. So there's a couple of different ways. I do show it this way just to make sure that you understand that we are a cog in the wheel. We do integrate with external systems, and we do have the ability to take metadata associated with either ads or editorials So the need for actually rekeying information in when you're actually planning your book is unnecessary. So let me spend just a couple more minutes kind of talking a little bit about planning and how we do the drag and drop and how we actually work the editorials around the ads. Now, a couple of the ad placement rules, for instance, if you look at this IKEA ad, I know that that IKEA ad right now is set to go in the first 5% of the book. I can actually say that I'm going to try to drag it into position 10, which is actually not the first 5%, and it gives me a warning. So if I click OK and try to drag it into this inside cover, then it does allow me to actually pop it into that first 5%. And if you look at this little 5% right here, it tells you anything ahead of that is the 5%. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can actually drag and drop ads on top of your editorial. So if you want to flow the editorials around the ads. So let's say that I want to take this half-page ad and I want to drag it on top of the story. I can put it on the My Story too, and you'll see that it actually flows over onto page 10. And it essentially works the same thing as you start dragging and drop smaller ads, say a quarter-page ad on top of that, and then you can grab another quarter-page ad and basically just continue to fill your book up. So you'll see that it do an auto flow for you based upon dragging and dropping these files in. Now, one of the other rules that we can have is we can have placement rules for your ads. So if you've got an ad that's placed right here on page 9 and it's actually a window ad, you'll see that I have another window ad, which is a Pella ad. And if I actually grab that ad and I drag it in, it actually warns me because I set up a rule that said, you know, those ads can't go anywhere closer than 3 pages from another window ad, and then I can drag that ad and move it down here. So once the system is set up, you're finished. You're pretty much going to pretend like we've created our entire book. I should say that you also have the ability, I had mentioned earlier on in the demo, where the difference really between planning and production is that planning is more low res. Production is really when you move into a high res environment. I'll show you an easy way that we can actually get the low res. Let's say that you've actually planned this story and you've already started as a designer to start creating the files and you just want to take a look at how it's going to lay out in the book. You do have the ability to actually drag and drop through our interface. So in this case, I'm going to take these 2 low-res JPEGs, and if I could just drag these into page 12 and 13, you'll see that it allows you to actually see how the book is going to start laying out in a low-res environment. That was one of the features that we added just recently that should a customer not want to actually have a high-res environment, it was a good little add-on. Now you can do the same thing for production in high-res once you promote your book. But let's pretend like I love it, I'm finished, I'm all planned out, I'm ready to actually take this book and I want to promote it to production. So at this point, after all the planning process is finished, I can go into the actions and say promote plan to production. Now once I do that, you'll see that I do get some warnings. But you do have the ability to actually promote the plan with the warnings because I'm an admin. And once I do that, the book is now ready to go into production, to accept high res, and to really start the process. And this is really where your designers are going to start the process of getting notifications and working through the process of creating the editorials and submitting the editorials in. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually go back over to the initial issue that I was working on where I actually have lots of data in. And I'm going to show you some examples of how it looks internally and then talk a little bit about how the editorial staff is going to get the information into this issue. A couple of different views. We're currently looking at a default view. You can take a look at an info-only view, which gets rid of the thumbnails and gives you an info view only. Also have a page status view, which gives you just a quick icon-based quick view on where you are in the production. So it tracks all of the current status of each one of the pages. And then also gives you what is basically a simple wireframe view if you want to see just a quick wireframe without all of the other noise. So let's do this. We'll talk a little bit, I guess, about the versioning. And if I'm looking at page 1 here and I click on page 1, you'll notice that in my template I had set this up to have 2 versions, one being newsstand and one being a default. So here's the newsstand version. You'll see that I currently have the the barcode associated with the newsstand edition. And then if I click on the default, it actually shows that that default version does not have this barcode in. So as I said earlier, we can handle versioning on a page basis, an insert, a section, an add. So we can really version anything that you need to version within each issue. All right, so let's do this. Let me talk a little bit about actually getting editorial into the system. You have a very simple uploader that you could go to Planned Actions and say upload editorial files. And if I choose an editorial, I can simply navigate on my desktop or to local storage to be able to select the files. And I can select a single file or multiple files. And it just brings them in and it allows me to say upload files, and then it's going to slip those files into the editorial based upon the position or the folio or the order that I want to put in to the upload. Not necessarily the most elegant. I think the drag and drop works well. But do you guys use InDesign as your primary software for production?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So what we did is we created an InDesign plugin, which allows you a two-way communication between the portal and everything that's been planned within the portal and how your designers currently work today. We don't want to change the way they work today, so we built this InDesign plugin, which is really makes it easy for your designers, where your designers actually don't have to come into the portal once they are assigned an editorial and have to work through it. So let's do this. I'm going to set up another quick editorial. So I'm going to reserve an editorial. Okay, well-rounded. Slug information in. Author, I'm going to assign it to me. Again, I'll make it myself. We can put it into the future design section. We'll make this a 1.66, so we'll reserve it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip this into page 6 and this part of page 7. I've already got this ad that's already placed there that came in. So at this point, you would take it. It's planned. I'll drop it in. At that point, an email notification just went out to me that said, hey, you've been assigned this editorial. You have to create this editorial, and it has all the metadata associated with the editorial. You can type in any instructions you have with it. But what I'll do is I'm going to flip over to my InDesign desktop. And all I did is I created this InDesign document. You'll notice I have it as a full page here and a 3/4 page with a slot here for the ad that actually is already in the portal. And here's the InDesign. We created this InDesign plugin called Editorial Manager. And if I click on the Editorial Manager, I'm going to log in as the Keith admin that I was logged into the portal. Once I sign in, what it does is it lists all of the editorials that are currently assigned to me, gives me a status that it's awaiting material, tells me if it's placed in a section, tells me how many pages it is, if it's placed there. And I have the ability to scroll down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this well-rounded editorial that I just created, and if I click on it, here's the gibberish I put in the slug. It tells me it's a 1.66. It tells me that it has a start page of page 6, and it is placed, and it's going in the future design section. Also gives me a nice little visual representation of the editorial and how it's supposed to be laid out. Now, several different options that you have. Now, we do have some options within the portal which allows you to stitch partial ads and editorial together in the portal. But we found that our customers and the designers who are currently using InDesign, they'd rather do it in InDesign. So what we did is if I go to Actions, we have several different things you can do within the Actions. I could upload a preview, which is low res, so it actually creates low res out of InDesign. I could upload the document, which based upon your pre-flight specs within the portal will create that final PDF X1A or PDF X4 and actually submit that file into the portal. I can pre-flight the document. I can import folio numbers. I'll give you a for instance. If you look at the bottom here, if you can see that it's currently, I've designed it to run on page 21 and 22. If I say import folio numbers, you'll see down here that those numbers just changed because I currently have it slated to run on page 6 and 7. So that's an example of that two-way communication between the portal and your InDesign. But one of the most important things is let's say that I do want to actually grab that ad that is in send my ad and pull it down into my InDesign document, if I go to Import Ads and say click there, what you'll see is, let me hide the plugin for a minute, it actually grabbed the high-res ad out of the portal and placed it into the proper position, XY coordinates, based upon how it was actually placed and planned into Virtual Publisher. Now, one of the good things about the system is that you have a couple of different options on pre-flighting. Now, what I did on purpose, if you look at the name of this file, it's called Error Well-Rounded. I took these three images and actually converted those guys into RGB. And I have my portal set up to actually catch errors where we're not going to accept, or we're going to error out on RGB. So the next step I would do is I would go through, and you can turn this pre-flighting on or off, by the way. Some customers want to have a central pre-flight and make sure that things like this don't happen. Some customers want to turn it off and say the designers should not be designing with RGB anyway. So it's completely up to you. But if I go and I say upload document, I have the choice. I can upload a single page or a range of pages. And if I say upload document, you'll see what it did is it actually found those three RGB images in my document and gives me a warning based upon that pre-flight parameter from your Virtual Publisher portal. But you do have a backdoor. You can say, you know what, I'm an admin, I want to upload it anyway. So if I say upload anyway, what the system does is it actually grabs your output parameters from your InDesign or from your Virtual Publisher portal. It actually is controlled through your InDesign plugin, and once you hit upload file, it actually creates that PDF based upon the full spec that you have within the Virtual Publisher portal. So it does give you centralized consistency of creation of those PDFs. So let me flip back over to the portal, and you'll see that those files are now flowing in. So you'll see that page 6, it'll actually pop in. And then what the system's actually doing currently also is that it's running it through not only the upload and the placement, but it actually merged these two items. So if I click on page 7 now, you'll see that we actually merged two PDFs, or an InDesign document and a PDF that was downloaded, into a final PDF X1A in this case. Now I do run this through an approval cycle, so I have it set to where it actually has to be approved by an editor. But those approval cycles are completely customizable by you. You can have them on or off. You can have them to where they will automatically approve. You can have approval cycles that have to happen in order, or you could have them where they could happen randomly and have a group or an individual associated with each one of those milestones. So it's completely customizable by you. Any questions before I talk a little bit about undoing what I just did?
I have a question. As an editor,
Sure.
often until images are placed into a format, we're not aware of page allocation. We have to accommodate page allocation. You know, we might have a Word document of 1,000 words, but by the time the images are placed, we need to cut 150 words out. We may want to go in and revise a paragraph that seems awkward. Where is the process of going in and having the ability to do that? What step? Where is the step process for that? Where does that begin?
Well, that's really managed through. I'm assuming you're creating those pages initially in InDesign. Are you using any kind of a InDesign plugin like InCopy maybe or something?
Editors work in a different program. We don't have to work in InDesign in the program that we have. Only the graphics designer does. So it's collaborative. I don't work in InDesign.
Right, right. Well, that's more of an upfront thing where we don't currently store story and text and manage really the creation of the text and the word count and manage that portion. And we do have an API that can integrate with some external systems, but what several of our customers do, they use InCopy to actually manage that portion of it. So using InDesign, using InCopy, bringing the copy in, working the images, modifying, scaling the images, importing the text, changing text if it needs to be changed, and working through that approval cycle more up front, and then using our InDesign plugin to actually send that information into the portal.
Okay, so it has to go, I see what you're saying, it has to all be created prior and then managed through InDesign for the final product.
Exactly. Where we pick it up really is the management and the production of the InDesign document, including the importation of the ads and all those types of things prior to actually creating the PDF. But there are a ton of other tools, obviously, that are available up front to manage that, whether it's K4 type stuff or InCopy or other types of things that do manage the text for editorials.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So one of the key things about what I just showed you is to be able to actually marry these two items together. Now, we know that we're actually managing your ads and your editorials, and what we do is, although we actually created that PDF X1A for you, you do have the ability to go back and unmerge it. So let's say that you see this and you go, oh my, I need to go in and I need to change something in this editorial, or oh my God, it's the wrong ad, that's not what we want there. You do have the ability under Actions to go in and say Unmerge Page. And when you say Unmerge Page, it actually takes the page, and you'll see that we actually have it set in two separate items. So you have the editorial here that it is in a PDF form, so it is PDF X1A, and you also have the PDF X1A that was submitted by the advertiser. And you can manage both of those items separately. So if I click on the ad, you'll see the ad is there. And obviously one of the main reasons we do that too is we're maintaining that ad as a separate item just in case your advertiser comes back in later and picks it up. So you do have the ability to make changes just in case you merge something and it wasn't supposed to work that way. Let's see, a couple of other things. Managing really kind of the approval cycle through your InDesign plugin and actually submitting those files in. Page 9, I know that on page 9 that I actually have a couple of revisions to that, and you'll see that it's currently on a rejected state. If I click on the file, and it comes up, you'll see that I actually have an original, a revision 1, and a revision 2. Now what I did is, and I'll show you how the workflow is that I just requested a change in the font, and you'll see that I can actually toggle it back and forth. And then I put it on a rejected state. And it's really simple to do that. Let's say that I want to actually add a note to the file. I can actually take the notes version, say add a note. I can pull the little sign up here. I can put it around it and actually type any information that I want to change on the file that I want to see, and then reject that file. And what happens is an email notification goes out to the person who's responsible for the creation of the InDesign file and makes the request for that change in the file itself. They go back to InDesign, they make that change, and they resubmit it back into the portal, and it will show up as a third revision. And that's really kind of how we manage it. I should show that one of the good things about the portal is that it does track everything. So if I click on History, it lists everything that happened to this file. So it says who did what, when they did it, why they did it. So if there's ever any question about the production of the file and what happened, we basically track every move and every change on that file. So there's complete accountability. All right, let's see. Let me show, I guess, a couple of other tools that we have. I'm running up on about 45 minutes here. I'll try to usually keep it to a little under an hour and then leave some time for some questions. A couple of additional tools that we have that I think are pretty handy. If you're looking at your publication here, you can actually go in and say that you want to actually print plans. So let's say you're going to go into a meeting and you want to have a copy of the plan as it sits. You can say print plan. It creates a very simple printable version of your of the view that you have within your portal. Just say print plan. It prints out a laser print for you. You can bring that into a meeting and mark it up. And again, it will actually give you that view on any view that you're looking at. So let's say that you really don't want to see it that way. Let's say that I want to see a very simple info-only view, because I really don't care about the images. I'm more interested in the metadata and the information there. If I change that view and I go back and say print plan, you'll say that you'll see that it creates that view for you in a printable view, which may be more appealing to kind of talk about in a meeting. One of the other tools that we built into the portal, let's say that you want to really have just a quick view of how the publication is currently laid out. We created a little feature called Magazine Viewer. So if I go down to View in Magazine Viewer, if I select that, you'll see that it pops open in just kind of a quick HTML flipbook version, which gives you basically a reader spread of how the book is currently laid out. So it gives you the ability to flip through it and see how it's going to be printed. And if you have any questions or problems, you can always go back and work on it from here. Now you'll notice that the only thing I've clicked on over here really was the book plan view, and I'm going to kind of zoom through a lot of the other views and features on the left side. So we've been looking at the book plan view. We did create an alternate view, which is a ladder view, which is more of a printer view, which was one of our customers' requests, where we start with page 1, 2, 3, go down and then come back up and have 31 and 32 here, which are our back cover and our inside cover. You can also view your book in a signature setup. So you have your cover section, you have each one of your signatures, you can see how your stories and your sections lay out within each one of the signatures. Probably most importantly is you do have the ability to look at your run list. So we really didn't talk too much about delivery of files, but what happens is you can set the system up where that when a section is finished or an entire book is finished or as pages are finished, you can set the system to automatically deliver those pages either to you or to the printer or to both of you if you wish to have a copy of the final book. But what happens is we'll send along the entire run list of all of the pages and what the file name is, what type of file it is, whether it's an editorial, and the current status it gives you here. But obviously, if you were delivering all of these will be completed pages. We have an editorial view. So let me click on one of the editorials and kind of show you how we can manage it. If I click on the smoothing elements, you'll see that you do have the ability to manage your regions here. So let's say that you do create an editorial that has multiple regions in it. You do have the ability to go in and actually assign additional regions to it. So let's say that we want to run this in the newsstand version, and then I could create additional files that may actually run in the default version. So where you saw before that I managed it on the cover, you could do it on an editorial full story if you'd like also. And if you made a mistake there, if you just click on the little X, what it does is it gets rid of that version and it does a run a book for you. All right, and I guess the last thing we'll talk a little bit about is also approvals. Now I'm in as admin right now, and we did talk a little bit about email notifications back and forth for people who are part of the milestones as the files go through the production cycle. I do have the ability to go in and actually see what approvals are currently assigned to different people. So for instance, I can go to Add Layout and see that there's one ad that's come in that has to be approved for Add Layout. Or I can go in and say, okay, I want to look at the editor's approval, which we know how lazy the editors are, right? There's a lot of files here that need to be approved by editorial here. So you do have the ability to go in and look at the full report. I'm in as an admin, so I see everything. If you're set up in really one group, you'll go in and just see the files that are associated with your group or you.